Hey, welcome to ComeonyespursTV. Today we are doing a mid-term report on Tottenham, and we've been through a hell of a ride thus far this season. There's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. I've got my guys here with me, Chuma, and I've got Yinka, and they'll be with us in just a few seconds. In the meantime, we will just say, "Come on, ye Spurs." Um, Welcome back. We just do a little bit of housekeeping just to say that this is Common Use Spurs TV. If you're joining us for the first time, you can subscribe to our channel, share this with your friends, colleagues, your acquaintances, your network, and like and hit the notification bell button if you want to get notified anytime we go live or we release a video. Today we are doing a half-term report. We're midway into the season, and we wanted to have a look and see how well we've done or how badly we've done over the course of the season so far. There's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. We're trying to keep it short. I mean, if we went the whole hall, probably here for the whole day because I know that people have got a lot on their mind. They want to get off their chest, you know. I know we've got what I call maybe I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. Two contrary views, if you like, or maybe a multiplicity of opinions when it comes to how things are playing out with Tottenham now. I've got with me Chuma. Chuma, how are you?
Oh, I'm super good. I'm super good.
Beautiful.
Personally, doing very well.
Good. I've also got Yinka. Yinka is what I call a celebrity guest. You know, he's been in many films, TV shows, and yes, I'm great to be here. How are you, Yinka? Great to have you.
I'm very well, thank you. Good to join you guys. How are my brother Chuma and my Mr. Soji, our host. Thank you very much for having me on today.
Thank you.
Very blessed. Happy birthday, people.
Now, where are we? We've got 33 points, 6 points off the top five, and compared to where we are, if you compare the season to where we were last season, how do you rate us? Let's just start with that for starters, right? And say that, okay, from the table perspective, right? We're like what? We're fifth on the table. We're 6 points behind Newcastle and 6 points behind Man United. Man United have played the same number of games with us now. Newcastle, I think, have played one game less than us, if I recall. We've all played 20 games, but at the top of the table, we don't even want to say their names, you know, and they're like, what, like 14 points ahead of us, something like that, you know, and it's from that perspective, it's dire, you know, it's absolutely dire, you know. But hey, it is what it is. You want to kick us off? I mean,
like our defending, it's Eric Dyer, the situation at the moment, isn't it? No, do you know what? I've come up with all from the shambles of our shit show against Shitty. Yeah, I've just got so much. I've got so much time for our defense at the moment. I could have a whole show on Tottenham's defense. Where do we stand mid-season, halfway through the EPL 22-23? My grade would be a B- if Spurs were in the classroom and I was their teacher. It would be a B-. That's me looking at it on a Spurs point of view, and as you said, where they are in the league, where I think their performances are, where my expectation would have been as well. My expectation would have been most probably about this. The only problem is, and what skews this whole thing up, where some people would say B-, that's way too high considering where we are, is because of the others down the road. That makes a whole different remix and spin on where Tottenham's season is, because there's too much looking over the garden fence, I think, at the moment, and seeing that, as you said, Arsenal 14 points ahead of us. I'm thinking, wow, that's a huge swing from last season till now. But we're not looking at Arsenal. We've got to just look at us in isolation. And we have done well this season. We have just above average, as I say, just above like a C grade. Not hitting the. There's been times when we hit the dizzy heights and things click for like about 45 minutes in Tottenham half Spurs' games. But all in all, to answer your question, keep it short and sweet, B minus. Doing good, can try and do a bit better.
Okay. Right. You more or less answered the question. Though I was going to ask you why, but you've answered the question. So, Chuma.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? I mean, if you were gonna, I mean, he's gonna find out what marks. I wasn't gonna go straight into marks awarding, but because I was gonna sort of do a little bit more analysis. But there you go. So it's okay. I mean, it's all right. I mean, we don't.
No. I'll do it the same way Yinka did it. So I'll do it in terms of Spurs on their own. I concur, it's a B minus. In terms of the league and where Spurs should be based on the fact that Conte started last year and had a preseason, we're a C plus.
Right.
So holistically with the league, we're C plus. As Spurs fans and only looking at Spurs, we're B minus. And
why is that for you though?
Well, you know, I would say, you know, like investment, I could say all that stuff, but you know, what I've seen with Newcastle, what I've seen with Arsenal as well, it's down to coaching. I said this yesterday to some friends that this isn't the best Arsenal side I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen fantastic Arsenal sides. God forgive me for mentioning their name on the Spurs podcast, but I've seen very, very talented players. These guys are good. They are not great, but what they have is they are organized. They are playing according to the vision of their manager, and they're leaving everything out on the pitch every game. They play the same way every single game, which is to pressurize their opponents, put them on the back foot, move the ball around, and try and score. Newcastle is doing the exact same thing. Manchester United are doing the same thing. They have a vision, which is we are going to attack you and we are going to score. We're going to try and keep it tight as well in the middle and try and play well defensively. Tottenham are playing reactive football. If you're playing reactive football, you have to be very, very precise. If you're only going to have the ball 30 to 40% of the time, you have to be very precise. Unfortunately, Tottenham haven't been very precise. You can say what you want to say about personnel, but for me, this is coaching. And it's not, whatever it is isn't working. Injuries compounded everything, I can agree to that. But it's not working. But in saying that, a friend of mine said, but dude, it's only like 19, 20 games in a season. So when you look at it that way, there is still a lot of time and a lot of things can happen in the space of 5, 6 games or 10 games. A lot of things can happen right now. So in that case, that's why I say the B minus, because they can improve. They could literally improve tomorrow, starting from tomorrow. They could literally just go on some kind of run or not losing run. But it has to do with the coaching. It has to do with the defending. And yeah, so that's where I stand.
All right, interesting. I mean, I'm in the middle somewhere between the two of you. I think you mentioned some of the points I was going to mention, which is the fact that if you look at the team and compare it to where we were last season and how we started the season so far, I think you find that even though we weren't winning games at the start of the season, we weren't playing that great. But so even though we weren't losing games, we weren't playing that great. But we just kept getting results, and it was for me, it was a case of you could see that there was a plan to work towards things get better, and things began to get better. And at the point when things started to get better, we started to lose key players to injuries. Now, for me, I felt that had a retrograde effect. I mean, retrogressive effect on the cohesion of the team, right? And as such, we just didn't him to get things right again. It meant having to sort of go back again to basics. And a lot of people always say this, right? They say, "Oh, Conte is too rigid. Conte is too inflexible. He doesn't change stuff, and he doesn't respond to what might call changes in matches." I thought that was interesting. If you're winning games, right, the philosophy is that you don't change a winning team. That's what a lot of people tell you, right? Arsenal today, I mean, okay, we're recording this today, the 22nd of January, after the beat Man United. This was I think the 7th game on the trot when they've had the same starting lineup. Now, okay, now some will say, hang on, is it that they don't change things? They don't sort of, sort of alter stuff? In the same sequence of games, you probably had City make lots of changes depending on personnel. I mean, they've had all sorts of stuff, right? So that tells you that. Are you saying that Arteta is inflexible, or he doesn't change stuff around because he plays 4-3-3 all the time? Okay, he has now and again when he makes a few changes here and there, but there have been times when Conte has come in and he's played 3-5-2. Depending on what personnel he had or what sort of matches he had to play. So I'm not sure that inflexibility accusation really cuts with him. I mean, that's the first point. The second point is that I think, given the sort of play that he wants to play, he probably doesn't have all the tools that he needs to do a good job. And someone will say, okay, fine, make do what you've got and do the best that you can. I've also felt that even in matches when we played well, where we haven't played too badly, right? He's been let down by the players who have either made individual errors on so many levels that have cost us games. I think I'm looking back at Lloris alone. Lloris alone has cost us almost 18 points in this league alone. And that is a hell of, I mean, if you count the number of points that we've lost as a result of Lloris's errors alone, we will be at the top of the league. Because if we had won those games, we won't be having this conversation now. So so I'm not sure it's about competence of the player. I'm not sure it's about style. I think it's probably the nature of league football, whereby you have either losing runs or winning runs, and at those times, at certain key points in the season, you have teams have a difficult patch, and it depends on how well you can ride that patch of difficulty. Arsenal haven't had any injuries this season. They've had only one injury to Jesus, and they've been able to choose the same team pretty much all season. Good luck to them. They've had seasons in the past, but they haven't been able to do that. Chelsea have had crazy injuries. Liverpool have had crazy injuries this season. And you can tell in their league form, they're probably 9th and 10th. I mean, between the two of them. And Chelsea has spent a lot of money. Even before this spending spree, they've spent a lot of money. Chelsea can comfortably name what I call 3 starting 11s, if you like, if they wanted to. They've got that much depth in their squad. For some reason, it's not working. I mean, I don't like to be on that forum at this point and see what's going on there. But we're not comparing ourselves to people who are not doing too well. We want to be at the top. Now that would probably bring us down to because as it is now, as a team, it seems that we've got this negative vibe that is running through the whole club. That everyone seems to just be on this negative spiral. I'm thinking to myself, hang on, calm down, guys, calm down, hang on. We're 5th in the league, okay, fine, we're 6th, but we're by no means out of it at all. By no means out of it. We've still got the cup run ahead of us. We're in Champions League last 16, and everyone seems to be totally losing their rag. Is it me, or have I missed something?
It's the fear of St. Tottering Day.
Say again?
It's the fear of St. Tottering Day that I think is impacting our behaviour at the moment. I think it's just generally to do with what's going on down the road.
Yeah.
That I think is affecting the toxicity amongst the fan base. Because if Arsenal were below us, would we be this toxic?
I mean, I don't understand that toxicity at the moment. It is amazing. There's apparently no forum you go to as a sports forum now where you would not get this crazy level of toxicity, and it's like so vile. Honestly, I've never seen such. I mean, I don't know, maybe I haven't been a Tottenham fan long enough. But I've been a Tottenham fan for better than 55 years.
No, but Soji, I said this on our Nigerian Tottenham WhatsApp group years ago. I said this a couple of years ago. I was like, I don't understand where this myth of Tottenham being like a great club came from. And when I mean great club, I mean great club like Liverpool in the 70s and 80s, Manchester United through the 90s and early noughties. Like these guys were winning like 10 leagues out of 12 seasons, that kind of stuff. I don't know where that thing. So I think some Spurs fans have this overinflated view of themselves or Spurs as a club. What I remember becoming a Spurs fan in the 80s was Spurs were a good cup side. This is what I knew. I didn't hear anything about leagues. I didn't hear us winning any leagues. We had very good players. I fell in love with the players. I was a Hoddle fan. I was a Waddle fan. I wasn't so much a Gaza fan, but I liked him. But I liked certain kinds of players, flair players, and they were winning cups or making it to the finals of cup competitions, UEFA Cups, FA Cups, League Cup semis, stuff like that. Basically exactly what we're doing now. We've never really changed. And in the Premier League, Spurs have finished on average 5th position. That's Spurs' average Premier League position. And nothing has changed. But somewhere along the line, this whole madness and I don't know how to describe it, thirst for trophies, started with the Roman Abramovich. It started with Chelsea, in my opinion, because Chelsea were never great. They got relegated in the 80s. They came up, they were nothing. Then everything started changing in like 96, the Hullit, Vialli era. They were winning a few cups. Then Roman Abramovich's money arrived and everything changed in the league. And then all of a sudden, everyone in London was obsessed with winning leagues. How many leagues have you won? And so people start feeling like, they start feeling insecure, low self-esteem as a Spurs fan. And that's led to where we are now. People talking like Spurs have like the divine right of kings to be top 3 or top 2 or winning the league. And that's not to say we don't have expectations or standards. It's just that it doesn't happen like that. And we can see from, look at we're going to talk about transfers later on, but Leonard Trossard just joined Arsenal. Spurs were talking to him, allegedly, for 4 weeks. And his agent came out to this Spurs and said, look, they were chatting for 4 weeks, telling me, wait for this, wait for that. Arsenal came in, asked how much the thing was, and paid 27 million and got him in 24 hours. It tells you where you are in terms of transfers. If that's what you're doing, we're haggling over Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro is a brilliant right back. We saw it firsthand when Sporting Lisbon played Spurs twice. The guy is a killer. Pay the money. We can't pay the money. So for those reasons, you have to temper your expectations. So that's where I am as a Spurs fan. I don't expect us to
hold that thought for 1 minute there, right? So I know that when you hear transfer rumors and how things are handled, you hear all sorts of stories, right? And the vast majority of the stories always hinge on Spurs being tight and not wanting to spend the money, right? Is it a myth that we don't have money, or we have money and we're not spending it? That's the first point. The second point is, if you look at this whole Trossard thing, right, and say, the agent coming up and saying, yes, we've had this, was speaking to Tottenham for weeks, saying that, doing this, that, and then Arsenal came in. People forget that Arsenal were haggling over Modric, and Chelsea came in and blew out of the water because we were haggling over 5 million, allegedly, right? Now, who's to say that, okay, you lost a 95 million pound player, and you had an opportunity to sign somebody, it's a no-brainer. Come on. How would it look if you lost Trossard just after losing Modric? I felt that may have contributed to the urgency. I don't know for sure. But hey, it is a distinct possibility that that was possibly part of the narrative. So back to this narrative about Spurs and money, right? I mean, without being an apologist for the board or where things are, but Spurs have never struck me as a team that have plenty of money to throw around, and which is why you have, in quotes, astute Mr. Levi doing the best in circumstances, or some people might say tight Levi not wanting to spend money. Where is the truth, Yinka?
In my point of view, in regards of our transfer policy under ENIC, is that for a long while, it has been rudderless and strategicless. Rebrov, Pavlyuchenko, Soldado, Ndombele, Lostoso, big money signings. The next big thing, the player that's going to turn around our club. And time after time, when the money is spent, the money is not spent wisely. So my issue is that there is money, it's just how you spend it. And the money has not been spent, in my view, adequately to support the growth and the betterment of the team. Sometimes they're panic buys.
Right. Can I just stop you there for 1 minute, right? So if you go back to what
I humbly disagree with my learned friend Yinka right now.
Okay, so if we go back to where Chuma said about earlier on, about where we are as a club, right? As in, people expect us to compete for title. They expect us to compete for top positions in the league. They expect us to be in cup finals, win cups and trophies, right? But when you look at the reality of where we're coming from, right? The fact of the matter is that we just don't have either the resources or the team or the whole structure in place enough that gives us that, what I call, right, if you like, to compete on the same level as the other teams, right? And that's the first point. Second point is this, right? You mentioned the fact that things have been rudderless and not so great. I won't address that. I'll leave you to do that.
I'm not saying in its entirety. I'm not saying it is in its entirety. Yeah. So before you guys shoot me down, I'm just saying that when there has been money to spend, we've not been spending it historically well.
Well, okay.
Okay. Let me
roll up my sleeves.
Okay. let me start with this. Yinka, you look like the kind of man who watches NBA basketball.
I do.
Have you ever been interested in basketball? Yeah.
Yes.
Spurs are the New York Knicks.
Ah, he went there.
There you go. What is the New York? What do you know about the New York Knicks? Okay, the New York Knicks have not won
what we call
NBA title since 1973.
Yeah, they're a team that a lot of people know about in the league. They're well supported, well loved, have an amazing arena that they play in, but they're always the bridesmaid and never the bride. They're always the groomsman, but never the groom.
Haven't won an NBA title since 1973.
But everyone knows about them. They're one of the biggest teams in the league.
Yeah. Spurs. So I'll start with that. Then you said something about the signings. So you said it's strategicless and rudderless. I don't think so. My problem with them is it's very hard for you to pick a dud every time. But Spurs have found a magical way to do that. Yeah. Sergei Rebrov was a player.
Yeah.
He wasn't what Spurs needed. Spurs needed to go for his strike partner, Andrei Shevchenko. Yeah. He went for Rebrov. But Rebrov was a very good player. He just wasn't a striker for Spurs. He's an attacking midfielder guy. But Spurs played him up front and he messed him up. Roberto Soldado, I have followed since he was in Real Madrid Castilla's younger team. He is a bona fide killer. He moved to Spurs and he got the attack of the foreign player, where everything in his personal life went to pieces. I think he lost the baby as well. His wife lost the baby. Loads of stuff happened to that guy, and his confidence went. Which other name do you mention? Ndombele's case was, Ndombele was a YouTube guy. I think they scouted him on YouTube or something. But herein lies the thing. He was so highly rated.
The mixtape was hot though. The Ndombele mixtape was hot.
Yeah,
I watched that
was
mixtape.
amazing. But here's the thing. As with Lo Celso, he was scouted by several big clubs in Europe. When we signed him, it was seen as a coup. They were top-range players. They just, for whatever reason, could not adapt to playing either under the managers they were. Lo Celso and him were both signed by Pochettino, and I think they would have thrived under Pochettino when he was still in his prime. They were signed by depressed Pochettino. So he couldn't think clearly how to use them. But I felt, and then Lo Celso got injured just as he joined. These guys would have been wonderful for Pochettino's kind of team. Unfortunately, Pochettino had given up at that point mentally. And that's the case of Spurs. And there are so many sides that do the exact same thing. Liverpool have bought players that David Ngog, that striker, looked like Henry. Ryan Babel, that I thought was going to be a world beater striker. I thought he was like Thierry Henry reborn. Ryan Babel, when he was at Ajax, came to Liverpool. And these are people that were signed for money. It's just that Spurs' players, we have the same problem every team has. But the difference is those other teams are stacked. So when they are 1 out of 3 major signings makes an impact, it looks great. Liverpool have bought players. I mean, look at Thingy Boy, Naby Keita in midfield. Naby Keita is a flop, but he was hyped to heavens when he was coming in. I watched Naby Keita at RB Salzburg. Brilliant player. But he has never worked out at Liverpool. Never worked out till this day. Liverpool have bought Oxlade-Chamberlain. Hasn't worked out. But then Liverpool will get that one guy, that Sadio Mane. They would get that Salah. And it looks like
Sadio Mane that end up being money for.
Exactly. But therein lies the issue. We've gotten good players. We just have wrong players for the wrong managers, or the wrong timing, or we bought the wrong player in the same team. It should have been the other guy. Like right now, look at Bruno Guimaraes in Newcastle. He was at Lyon. He's the guy you should have gotten from Lyon, not in Ndombele. Yeah. You know, Bruno was that guy. He's now doing it for Newcastle. You know, but Newcastle have bought so many flops over the years themselves. So for me, they've had direction. I just felt Daniel Levy, in my opinion, he's gone for 3 pragmatic managers in a row. Out of these 3 pragmatic managers, Mourinho, Nuno, and Antonio Conte, 2 of them are elite, world-class managers. And they are good at what they do, play reactive football.
Chuma.
But they're reactive. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, hold that thought there about the managers, because that's a very, very key topic we're going to come to next, right? But before we go into managers, right, let's just sort of finish this whole transfer policy and how Tottenham have seemed to have, in quotes, if you like, from where we think we should be to where we are, and appear to have failed. Now, I know you mentioned the fact that maybe the transfer policy may not necessarily be rudderless. I mean, on the face of it, because if you look at the players that were bought at the time we bought them, a lot of things may happen that didn't make those things go right? But you and I know, without a shadow of a doubt, that, I mean, with the best will in the world, transfers are a gamble. That's the first point, right? Because even with the so-called hype and everything, you know, a lot of key players still fail to perform in different clubs, and every club can point to their list of flops, you know. I mean, Sebastian Veron, I mean, look what he's Chelsea.
Right.
Yeah, twice, exactly. Chelsea, United, he didn't do it at all, you know. So, I mean, I can count so many players that we begin to however, we've also had people who have done absolutely brilliant as well. I mean, look at Mr. Mr. Bale came from Southampton. They almost threw him.
Yeah, look at Son. We bought Son when nobody else in the league went for Son. Yeah. We went for Son and got. So
I mean, there's so I mean, we have a lot of maybe on the face of it, you might say, okay, overall, maybe things haven't worked out so great. However, if you put this in the context of where we are financially, in comparison to other teams in the league, we've always been on the back foot. We've never been able to pay top wages. We've never been able to pay top transfer fees. We're always looking for what they call creative ways of achieving getting good players in without necessarily breaking the bank. And that has its limitations. And the limitations get shown up on the field. So here we are, Mr. Levi. Everyone says, oh yeah, we're property business, where we have stadium and all that stuff. But the truth of the matter for me is that if you don't have a solid financial base, it's going to find it very, very difficult to compete with the big boys. And in whatever we like it or not, right? Levi and Enoch are responsible for making Tottenham competitive today, because we've never ever been like top four coming consistently, or go like before now. Before Enoch came, you would never ever find Spurs competing for top four. Never. Champions League before Enoch came. No way. We didn't have Champions League football. Now we have Champions League consistently. We've had several semi-final appearances, several cup finals. Okay, we may not have won, but we are always there or thereabouts in the last few years. And people, I think that in a way may have clouded our self-appraisal, if you like. I think ourselves, oh yes, we should be competing with the top guys, given that we don't have the same sort of money that those guys have. Okay, fine. We're ninth in the world now in terms of revenue. Well, that's revenue. It doesn't talk about debt. It doesn't talk about profit. That's revenue. It's just we only have the story. Barcelona are like third or fourth in revenue stakes, but they can't even compete in the transfer market now, can they? Because
don't talk about Barcelona, because they're the only team that can print money out of thin air to keep afloat. I don't know where Barcelona find their money from, but somehow they find money from nowhere.
Yeah,
but then the fans can point to the fact that Daniel Levy has become a billionaire in the 23 years he's been chief exec. He's now a billionaire. He has £1 billion to his name
in assets.
So if we're talking that,
Oh, and also, you also have to look at when Enoch took over Spurs the weekend before the semi-final of the 2001 FA Cup season. I'll never forget that. They sacked George Graham a week before the semi-final, and that was the week that Enoch took over, that very week. Till now, this is when the Premier League has been making the billions. So they've had the opportunity to grow the club during the most lucrative time of the EPL up to date. And you've got to remember, they're one of the longest standing boards remaining in the Premier League at that time. Arsenal have changed their board in that time. Liverpool changed their board in that time. The Glaziers, I'm not sure, I think...
And that's the problem.
Yeah. So you've had all the top teams change their financial basis and standing after Enoch has come into ownership of Spurs. I think that's a significant reason, maybe of sometimes when we're on the back foot of things. So to answer your question, yes, in the big picture, we've done great in regards of our evolution as a club financial and the financial basis. But we're being behind. You've got to take the fact that the vehicle that we're on is the biggest sporting vehicle in the world. They've been taken on Enoch have been taken on that ride as well. They've been transported on that particular journey with the EPL's growth to being the biggest sporting league next to maybe the NFL in the world. So I think that comes in hand. So not everything is great. They've done. I mean, just in the TV rights alone, in surviving in the Premier League has helped on their financial basis. I wanna bring it forward, this Enoch thing, and I know that you're managing this in regards to how well because we're talking about this mid-season review, how well have Tottenham done from the end of last season to this window in their signings? and where does that place? I'm going to throw, before I answer, I'm going to throw that to yourselves, Chuma and first, and then we'll go maybe on to Mr. Shoji later.
How have they progressed from the last season to the end of last season, the summer window to January's window? Okay. For
Or
me,
not progress.
he wanted certain, yeah. Conte wanted certain things addressed, right? We needed a central midfield player. We went and got Yves Bissouma. I thought wonderful signing. I thought great signing. Premier League proven, box to box guy. He's very comfortable on the ball. He's physical. He's athletic. Brilliant. We got Ivan Perisic, man who's adaptable between left wing back and left wing. So he's not really just only going to play one position. He could play two positions if needed. That was needed. I needed someone to got rid of Reguilon, kept Sessegnon because Sessegnon is more physical. So you want someone to mentor Sessegnon how to play a wing back position. Wonderful. On the right side, the club went and got Jed Spence. I thought perfect. A young boy who can run for days, who is technically good enough. Exactly. A guy who I thought could, I thought we had addressed the issues only for the season to start. And then I thought wonderful preseason, and then got backup goalkeeper to Lloris. My issue with that was I never wanted a backup goalkeeper to Lloris. I've said this for the last 3-4 years, that one of the biggest issues I have with Tottenham's transfer policy is you don't need to buy deputies for certain positions. You need to buy rivals. And Lloris's position is one where Lloris needed a rival and not a deputy. He's had deputies for years, and they've always come up short. Not because they weren't good keepers, but because they're guys who needed game time to become. But you need a guy who's telling him, no, I'm not here for game time behind you. I'm here to take your spot. And it's never happened.
Sorry to pause you and hold up. Similar to when Lloris came into the club for Brad Friedel, and Brad Friedel was the #1 keeper at the time. But we knew that when Lloris came in, Brad Friedel, your time is up, or your time is up. Like, you're either back or shock out. So I understand what you're saying in that. Yes, carry on.
Exactly, and he's saying that like we have Foster now. We should have gotten Foster 4 or 5 years ago when he was younger. And Foster was that guy. He was a very, very good keeper. Very good keeper. He's still very good now, but he's older. His mentality has changed. He's happy to be a #2. You needed him when he was hungry to be a #1 and be an England starter as well. That's what you needed. And in my opinion, we could have gone for Nick Pope, who's at Newcastle at the moment, who was at Burnley. Very good with his feet. Good shot stopper. Similar build to Lloris. He's not a big dude. But Newcastle got him, and you've seen the difference. Like, he's made a difference in Newcastle's defense, and he's keeping.
He's made that leap. Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, it was a B, A- transfer to me. I thought they addressed things, and getting Richarlison to me was the icing on the cake. I'm a Richarlison fan. A lot of people weren't. I've been a Richarlison fan since Watford. I thought Spurs should have gotten him from Watford, and him moving to Everton was like, no. And to show you the thing, we weren't the only club in for Richarlison. Chelsea were in for him, and now after this World Cup, there are rumors that Real Madrid have been looking at him like, look, if there's an opportunity, we'll get this guy. I'm not saying Richarlison is moving to Real Madrid for those people watching who comment later on, but I'm just saying that they've looked at him. He's a bona fide player. He's a very good player. Unfortunately, he's played out of position. Bissouma, for whatever reason, Antonio Conte has changed the way he plays football because he wants him to do something he didn't do at Brighton. He wants him to play as the defensive midfield shield and not a box-to-box guy or controlling the ball. Perisic is the only one who's done quite well because Perisic is doing what he's always done. All the other players have been asked to do things that are not natural to them, and so they have stuttered. Jed Spence played the other day, and Conte said, I liked what he did. I liked the fact that he passed the ball, he was defending. I was thinking, that's not the boys' game. But I'm not the coach of Spurs. So those are the things that I think happened. That we had a good window. We had a good window. It wasn't bad compared to what we've gotten before. It wasn't a bad window.
Interesting. Right. So, Yinka, you're saying that does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, conclusively, if that's a word.
Okay, right. ComeonyespursTV, where we're reviewing Spurs' performance in the season so far. We've looked at the team's performance in terms of league positions. We've tried to look a little bit at the transfer policy for the club. In terms of the managerial position, which seems to be such a big contention now. I mean, okay, there's been the news making the rounds today that Conte has said that he wasn't going to renew his contract at the end of the season and was leaving at the end of the season. Now, how true that is, who knows? But
yeah, thank you. It says who? I did not hear that one come from his mouth, too.
Well, it's come from.
That's like just saying.
Potentially a reliable source who's meant to be close to.
No, but he's denying now. He's backtracking. They say there's a problem with the translation. He's been backtracking on Twitter all day.
Oh, you mean the what's the word?
DiMarzio. DiMarzio is saying that he said
like Michael Jackson, yeah,
potentially leaving. It went from leaving to potentially leaving. So when you start making these little twists,
the quotes which I saw on Twitter, on a lot of feeds said that he can report it categorically that he says he thinks he will leave at the end of the season. You know, now obviously that's a big position to take. You know, for somebody who hasn't actually.
No. Like I said, he's saying it's his opinion. So he's backtracking that it's potential, and it's his DiMarzio's opinion based on what he's seen. And I'm just laughing. It's funny. But everyone's run with Conte is definitely leaving.
Right. Okay. So that for me goes at odds with everything we've heard so far in terms of what the position is. The difficulty with speculation is this, right? You just never know what is true or what's not true. And unfortunately, we're not close to those sources to be able to sort of verify and say, okay, my sources say that, oh, this is what the position is. However, I know that Conte has come out to say that he has a project to carry out. He's working on it. He's working very hard, you know, and he's sort of said, look, let's leave contract talks for the moment. You know, the key is let's focus on the job at hand. And as far as I'm aware, that remains the case. Now, it seems to me from a what I call siege mentality type position, whereby it's like everyone is against Spurs. You know, it's like the stories you hear in the press, everything is negative. You never seem to see anything positive. I mean, when they report Spurs, but it's just so negative. I don't know why. Why is this though? I mean, is it me or I mean, Chuma?
No, we're in a world now where everything is immediate. Everything is microwave. Everyone thinks that they should win. Everyone thinks that they should be on the cover of albums. Everyone thinks that they should have a higher selling album when they bring out their first album. Everyone thinks that their team should win the league. Everyone thinks that their child should get all A's in school. When you have that kind of belief, we're in an environment and a world that is pushing that agenda that everything is perfect. You can get what you want. You can do this. People forget about work. They forget about failure breeding character. They forget all about these things and forget about process. Even if the process is 23 years, we've seen teams rise up in 20 years of nothing and become big names. People forget that Manchester United did not win a league from 1968 till 1992 or 93. In that space of time, they got relegated as well. People forget all these things, and they just think so. It's a world that's fueling you with now, immediacy.
And if you bought into it,
if you bought, and the really sad thing is there's some older people that have bought into it as well. You know, they really bought. They forgot that one time they used to use a typewriter, now they're using a laptop. You know, because now everything, they used to fax. Now you can scan and just send. They forgot all those things because the world has conditioned them to become this way, and that's how football is. As a football fan, I can't stand it when people start telling me about winning and trophies, and when you say, well, was the game sweet? Did you enjoy the game? Was there any skill? They tell you, what, who cares about skill? You know, I spoke to a Chelsea fan years ago, and I remember this was when Kyle Walker was playing for Spurs last year, and I said to him, this was my boss at the time, my project manager at the time, and he was a Chelsea diehard, and I said to him that, oh yeah, like, you know, oh, Kyle Walker, brilliant piece of skill, he did this, and the guy laughed and said, oh, you're a real Spurs guy, aren't you? I said, why? He said, because right backs defend, mate. Right backs defend. And I looked at him like, you know, but he was stating facts, because this is Mourinho's time. A right back, you don't go venturing up and down the field. Your job is to keep my team compact. But me as a Spurs guy, I was like, man, Kyle Walker, Danny Rose, bomb down anytime. He wanted to win. He said that will not win you guys anything. And he was right. You know, but it made me happy. I love the football, but we're in this place now. I don't know what Yinka thinks, but we're in this place now where everyone wants to win all the time.
You make them good points there. There is also another issue when we hear reports from journos in regards to the fidelity of how Conte is at Tottenham. We mentioned at the top of the show about the toxicity. When you have toxicity, what's the easiest thing to spark a reaction? A match. All these actual reports and these tweets and these Instagram posts, they're just sparks to spark off a reaction, because they know the atmosphere around Tottenham is toxic. If they said that same thing about Arteta, would anyone even blink an eye? I'd say, which one is wrong with this journal making a comment like that? It's just that this Tottenham at the moment has an environment, this toxic environment allows clicks, it allows views, it allows opportunity for their words to get out there, because everyone is on edge about what's happening with Don Conte. In my opinion, when he signed for Tottenham in November 2021, I think it was an 18-month contract. Excuse me. Or it was to sign for the end of this season. Let the guy play out his contract. It's not like he asked for a 4-year contract. It's not like he asked for a 5-year contract. It's not like he was asking for heaven and earth. He said, give me 18 months. If I can deliver what I told the board, not us as the fans, he's made an agreement with General Levy and the board in regards to what he would see as, excuse me, what he would see as successful during that 18 months reign. And both parties agreed on it. And I think that we have to allow him to see that out. Whether that means another top 4 finish, whether that means bringing home silverware, whether that means balancing the books and getting players. Because I think that's another issue that we haven't touched upon, is that how the challenge of getting rid of some players, similar to the way that Arsenal done it, to allow us to bring in more revenue and space for new players. But I think we have to allow an opportunity for him to see out this time. But obviously, with this toxicity that's going on, it's making it harder and harder as we go along. There's one thing I mentioned in the last show, and it's another basketball analogy from my brother Chuma, is that this season Tottenham are looking what is called the last dance in regard to where we're at, where players are at in their careers at Tottenham, where the management is at, even the ownership on board. I think it's a big crossroads come the end of this season where we're going, and we have to. I think that raised the Chicago Bulls game in that time, and the same similar things to happen here, where we need to raise our game, knowing that this could be the last time these players play as a squad together, even this manager coaching the team and such. So I think this is a last dance opportunity, this last second half of this season that we're going into. But all in all, if Conte leaves at the end of the season, he signed an 18-month contract, we shake his hands, we part ways, we look towards a new manager. We didn't sign him on a 4-year contract. So why is everyone all panicking now as in regards to he's going to leave at the end of the season? He's supposed to leave at the end of the season. That was the whole point. He came in to sort it out in 18 months. If you can't sort it out, good luck to you. You'll keep it moving. But I think it's just a case of staying patient and trusting the process, even though in Conte's eyes and with the Conte and Tottenham, it's an 18-month process, not an 18-year process. If he wants to go on further, wait to the end of the season. If he's delivered the trophy or he's delivered top 4 again, he's in a better position to now renegotiate with the board going forward. The only problem is that we don't want players down in tools or not being motivated, thinking that he's not going to be there beyond that. But it can work as I said, it can work like the last dance, where everyone's like, let's just come together. This might be the last opportunity we got to bring Harry Kane a trophy and certain players to see out their time. These guys win one trophy, all of a sudden things are seen as more successful than when they first started in regards to that.
Interesting. Have you seen The Last Dance, Chuma?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah.
So what
very interesting.
With Yinka's.
I like the analogy. I really do. I like that analogy, and yeah, I agree with certain things Yinka said. Now I agree with most of the toxicity is being fueled or catalyzed by social media and media in general, because we don't know anything until they start talking. We don't know anything until, like, for me, when I switch off Twitter, I don't feel trouble. The minute I put on Twitter, and Twitter is on my screen now, by the way, you start seeing all these things from these in the know guys that you don't know how they know what they know. And
I love how you put that.
And they start writing all these. Yeah, they start writing all these things. And then I've just seen one from Matt Law, who is an actual paid journalist, saying Conte hasn't said anything. That Conte is actually willing to wait till the end of the season, buy some players in January. He's really putting for Zaniolo. He wants to make things work and then see what happens next. So here's a journalist saying this. But meanwhile, I've got some in the know young boy who's probably 18 or 19 saying Conte is leaving, Spurs are this, Spurs are that, and it's true. It's just being fueled and you don't know what's really going on. But like you, Soji, also said, results change everything.
Absolutely.
And the minute you beat a Fulham, you try and beat a Man City, you go like 3-4 games clear. I've always said it's like once you can win 3 matches on the spin in the Premier League, your fan base just changes. 3 matches on the spin in Premier League, throw in a couple of cup matches as well, it changes. I just believe that Conte's inflexibility, for me, I wouldn't say it's more inflexibility, it's more, I don't understand why players who played a certain way can't play that way for him. I just, like Bissouma, I'm being quite disappointed, but then again, some players don't click in their first season. That's true as well. When they move to certain clubs, I've just been disappointed by that. And then Kulusevski, who was our most creative player, was absent for a while. So I can concede certain points of my annoyance with where Spurs are at this point of the season. When I think of injuries, when I think of things like that, but the rumors haven't helped. The narrative being spun hasn't helped. The ownership as well. Certain things they've done that I felt didn't help. But all I can say is I remember we wanted to buy the left centre back, Bastoni. And Spurs, I think, went out of their way to try and get that boy. I really think they tried everything in the book to get that boy. And in the end, he turned it down. And we couldn't find the left centre back for love or money. We couldn't find anybody. Wanted Josko Gvardiol that's proved himself in the World Cup. They inflated his price to 80 million. This before the World Cup. So God knows what he's worth now. We tried for loads of them and then we got Longley. I don't think Longley is a bad player. I know he's made mistakes. I know all that. But I don't think he's a bad player. It's just things haven't worked out this season or this halfway point. But we're still within a shout of top 4. So let's see what happens next.
Right. We're still within a shout of top 4. Let's see what happens next. That seems to be the verdicts of our panel so far. In terms of the managerial position,
I had all the time to drink my drink. By the time you switch the screen, there's me with a big bottle of Pepsi. People figure out this guy is a real hooligan. He's a hooligan. I was What is this? I'm like, oh, we're back on the screen. We're back on the screen. Shit. People, I drink out of cups. I do drink out of cups usually, please.
There we go. We keep it real here, don't we?
For real.
You know, yeah. So the manager's position remains a matter of rumor, a matter of conjecture. We don't know what the truth is, right? But if we said and look at ourselves in terms of tactics, in terms of him wanting money, in terms of how he's used the players and all that, how would you rate Conte so far? Because you have folks who say that he's inflexible. You have folks who say that he's not coaching players well, and they point to examples like Newcastle, who are doing well this season, and also the likes of Brentford, and also the likes of Brighton as well, who seem to be doing reasonably well with average, in quote, average players, as in players who are not what you might call your superstars or the same type of quality of players, if you like, who play for Tottenham. Now, again, it's a matter of opinion, if you like, in terms of whether or not you consider those players top notch or not. However, it doesn't change the fact that those teams appear to be playing reasonably well at this point in time. Now, okay, are we to say that, say, a team like Brighton, are they getting the effect of new manager spark, or the fact that the Zebri as a coach has had a history of doing well with teams like Shakhtar Donetsk, and he's done well with them with limited resources, or he's done well with them with good players? Because if you look at the players that he had to play with, they're not exactly what you might call unknown players. People who they play with really, really good players as well. So yeah, I mean, it's not exactly playing with a bunch of mobs, if you like, when he was playing with those other teams that he's done well with, right? So there's that perspective, right? There's also this perspective of the fact that, okay, Mr. Conte likes to play a particular style with a particular type of player, right? Now, he hasn't exactly had what you might call those resources at his disposal yet in full tilt throughout the season, right? Or at this crucial point in the season, right? Does that make him a bad coach? Because if you look at this same person who guided us with the same resources, if not worse resources last season, if you like, to a point whereby we got into the top four, and not just got in the top four, we actually got in there by merit. It wasn't because, someone let us in. We got in there totally on merit. What do you say, Yinka?
To grade Don Conte in his half-term report, I was thinking while he was saying that, and it's between an A- and a B+. An A- based upon the personal challenges that he's had to navigate during this season, which not many men, quote unquote, will struggle in their occupation trying to navigate. You lose 3 of your good compadres and friends, it's going to take a toll on you, emotionally, physically, in the way that you do your job. No matter what, whether you're a gardener, whether you're managing a football team or driving a taxi, it's going to take a toll on you. And so to navigate that and be where we are, yes, I will give him an A-. The reason why the grades drop is because of his pragmatism, because of his inflexibility at times, and because of his... Because it's funny, because before when he went to Chelsea, Don Conte was a 4-3-3 type of guy. And then circumstances made he had to change it to I believe to a 3 at the back with wing backs. There was a particular game in the league where his hand was forced to do it. And then from that particular game, Chelsea went on a run of games, which I was just going to do as a side note, when a team in the Premier League goes on a run of winning games, between 10 and 15 games, they win the league. So it's just one of those phenomenal type of run of results that have happened that helped Chelsea go and win this particular league that season. And he thought, oh, I'm onto something here. And he's been playing that particular style to date on the whole. It's not that he can't change it. I think that's his go-to particular formation. Does it work within the remit of our squad? Not in its entirety. As you said, due to transfers, due to players' ability, due to just the overall chemistry of the squad. I don't think it does work in one hand. I think is an incredible motivator to come back. The amount of times we've come back in second halves this season means that he must be doing something right at the halftime break and coaching them. But it shouldn't get to that point of that he has to be doing emergency surgery on the team because we've been hemorrhaging poor results about in the first half of games. So there's a part of me that says, yes, he's a brilliant coach. He's a world-class coach. But there's another part of me that you're also, to get into that world-class status, there's been a stubborn part that I think needs to let up a bit and be able to look at his squad more objectively and think, we might have to work around this to bring more creativity into the team, to bring more chemistry into and style into and fluidness of play into there, because it's not working. Whether he does it or not, I don't know. But B plus, I'm going with B plus for this first half.
Chuba. I think you have a different view, don't you?
Well, okay, I'll counter. Possibly. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear you.
I'll counter some of what Yinka said earlier on, because like I followed Conte for a long time. So I'll start off with this. You're right about him changing his formation, but he didn't change it. He didn't change it to this. He changed back to what he was. So he first started in his first couple of clubs. I think Barry was one of them where he managed. He played a 4-2-4. And he now converted that 4-2-4 to a 3-5-2. And it worked very well for him in Juventus. He won like 7 titles or something like that in Juventus. Then he moved to Italy. If you remember, that was that Euro 2016, I think it was. Euro 2016, he played with an Italian side that had no superstars, no frill players. They had like, what they call that guy that played for Southampton as a striker, begins with a P. His name escapes me at the moment, but he was a front striker for them. And they had journeyman players in around the positions, then possibly like Pirlo and some other guys, but he didn't have like bona fide Baggios or any of those kind of guys. And he played this 3-5-2 to perfection. They were playing pattern football, his patterns. It worked. Then he took over the Chelsea job after the Italian job. When he got to Chelsea, Chelsea was still playing a 4-3-3. He stuck with it and he won a couple of matches, but it wasn't very fluid. Then he got turned over by Arsenal. While he was getting turned over by Arsenal, midway through that game, he switched to back three and they got more control. Eden Hazard and I think Pedro became the two guys behind his central striker. And he just changed the way they played. And he looked at it and said, right, instead of a 3-5-2, I think a 3-4-3 works in this country, or 3-4-2-1, however you want to deploy it. It works in this country. And he stuck with that, and they went on that run, and they won. And in his mind, he said, in England, 2 10s work better than playing 2 strikers. When he went back to Italy with Inter Milan, he played a 3-5-2. That's the reason Eriksen couldn't get into his side, because Eriksen was this free-moving midfielder that didn't tackle, wasn't very tenacious, wasn't all that. Eriksen's just a creative. So he would end up having to change the system to 3-4-1-2, where he would have no possession in the middle. And he didn't like it. But Eriksen sort of changed his mind, but he still stuck to 2 strikers. When he came back to England with Spurs, the first thing he did was, I remember what worked in Chelsea. And he went to 3-4-2-1, this time deploying Son and Lucas behind Kane. Unfortunately for him, Son and Lucas are not number 10s. They never have been, never will be number 10s, but they can play it based on how you played. Son likes to run in behind the striker. Hence the reason Kane actually can play 10. So Kane comes deep, Son runs behind him, and it worked perfectly well. The reason I think he's inflexible is because if you have done something that has won you 8 titles in like 10 years or 9 titles in 13 years, you believe you know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
It's very hard to convince somebody's father to now start and get Instagram when he's used to sending normal pictures or taking pictures with his camera. It's worked all these years. Why do I need to change? And I've succeeded. He has succeeded playing his formations for years. And because of the fact that 4-3-3 let him down at Chelsea when he tried to follow what they did, he's never come back to a back 4 system unless his hands is forced and he goes to like a 4-4-2. But even then, it mimics his back 3 business, lopsided. So he's tactically inflexible. My whole problem with him is, at what point do you stop? At what point do you say this thing isn't working? At what point? For him, he always thinks there's a turnaround at some point in the season. And like you said, if it happens now where Spurs go on a 10-match winning streak, we'll all think that it was pure lunacy questioning him in the first place. It's only because we are losing. Spurs fans do not like pragmatic football. The majority of Spurs fans, they hate pragmatic, reactive football. However, if it wins and wins consistently, they will stomach it. When he was winning towards the end of last season, we were still having 40% possession, 45% possession in those games, like where we spanked Villa 4-0 at their end. We had like 47% possession. We killed them because we were effective. When it's not effective, it's a problem. So regarding him, I think he's done a very good job based on what he does. I just think that there are different ways to play his formation. You were talking of Sergio was talking of De Zerbi at Brighton. Mm-hmm. I love watching Brighton. Watching Brighton for me now reminds me of when I was watching Pochettino at Southampton, and I kept lusting after Pochettino to come to Spurs. I want De Zerbi to come to Spurs, even though I don't want to sack Conte, because that man understands that attacking football wins you matches, and he's found a way to play attacking football with average players. And that's why I wanted Poch at Spurs. That's why I want people like that. I know the club is not going to spend that money. So if we're not going to do that, why don't we just get these guys that can work with what we have and keep us somewhere until they sell? My whole thing is they should sell. I want them to sell. I'm no longer going to complain about Inek. I just want them to sell. So that's my case with them. I just want them to sell. And if they sell, it solves my problem for me, because then I won't have to complain about money. But up until then, don't get an elite manager and not back him. Conte needed backing in a certain way. It can't be done. It won't be done. I don't know if we don't have the money or any. I don't know what the situation, but he's not going to get that though. He's not going to get those players. When you're haggling over Nicola Zaniolo, it tells me that you're not prepared to do anything for the guy. So why don't you just get us a coach that can play with what he has and play progressive football? That's why if Conte stays, I'm happy. If Conte goes and Pochettino comes, I'm happy. If Conte goes, Tuchel comes, I'm happy. If Conte goes and we link De Zerbi, if De Zerbi can be that brave to ditch Brighton mid-season right now, I will be happy. But either way, I'm happy. I like him as a coach. I just want to see more attractive attacking football. That's mine.
Right. So on that note, final word, because it's looking like, okay, as we are now, we're crossroads essentially from the fan base perspective, because of the toxicity with the management, with the football we're playing, with our position relative to the rest of the league. When I say rest of the league, I mean the guys up the road, and we have this, what people have said on this program, maybe a slightly overinflated impression of where we think we should be as a football club, given where we're coming from. Now, where does that leave us now? Does that leave us with the fact that, okay, if we change managers now, would that change our fortunes? If we keep our manager now, what would happen to us? I mean, are we going to have an improvement? Do you see any chance of things turning around?
It would be disastrous if we got rid of Conte at this moment in time. It would, in my view, simply because is that going to be the answer? No. Just give it to the end of the season and let this season play out. Where will Tottenham end up with Conte at the end of the season? You know this emoji face. You know that emoji like that.
Eyes.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if we end up where we are right now, which is fifth, which I think we're fifth at the moment. Hopefully fourth, but that means that the teams above us drop in form and us gain in form, which is entirely possible and entirely plausible. But like any Tottenham fan worth his salt today, if the others are going to win anything this season, we have to win something. I don't care what. Well, there's only two possibilities: the Champions League and the FA Cup. And for me, that's success. We already messed up in this in Carabao, Red Bull Cup, or whatever it was. So I think that Red Bull Cup that we messed up in, like the easiest way to get silverware. Every time Tottenham get to they have the easiest route. We just mess it. I don't know what our we just I don't know with that particular competition. I just don't get it. We've got a weird history of that competition, but yeah, I think that would be success. A trophy.
Okay. I think overall, final word, Chuma.
I'm going to sound very, very much. I'm putting on my Soji mask of positivity. I'm going to wear my Soji mask of positivity, and I'm going to say that if Tottenham keep Antonio Conte, I think we have suffered our spate of injuries. I think we suffered everything that we should have suffered for a season. We suffered it already. The other teams the teams at the top have yet to suffer 3 or 4 major players going out. When that happens, if that happens, a lot of things will change. And I'm talking Newcastle, I'm talking Almiron, like in Newcastle, Almiron, Guimaraes get injured, the game changes. For Arsenal, if Saka, Odegaard, and Partey get injured at the same time, the game changes for them. I'm not saying we'll catch them or anything. So I think Tottenham, if Conte can steady the ship in his time he has left till the end of the season, Tottenham will get top 4. He will play he'll play the last 18 games like 18 finals and get us top 4. It's quite possible he could also win the FA Cup. That's very, very possible. So I'm looking at those two things. If Spurs changed him tomorrow, if he walked out tomorrow, they paid him off tomorrow, and they got Pochettino, because of the familiarity of Pochettino to those players, the core of those players, Pochettino will get top 4. If they get Thomas Tuchel will get top 4. It's names like Joachim Löw, the former manager of Germany, and all these characters that I've seen being tipped. Those guys who've never had any Premier League experience. If they get a Premier League experienced manager who plays attacking football, I believe Tottenham can get top 4. If they keep Antonio Conte and he gets some decent buys this window, he gets that right wing back, he gets Zaniolo, game changes, and he can go on a run and he will make top 4. So either way, we're winning. I see Tottenham being able to make top 4 and hopefully win the FA Cup. Outside chance, Champions League, as in a very wild chance, Champions League. So that's, ladies and gentlemen, I've been
wild than the way that we got to the last final of the Champions League.
Okay, so some people might ask, they want a bit of what you're smoking or drinking. So
I'm drinking whatever Soji drinks on a regular basis. I have the same coffee supplier as Soji.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, you can final word.
Final word. Don't give up hope. I know it's the hope that always kills the Spurs supporters, but don't give up hope. There's a twist in the tale. Arsenal is going to end in tears. I keep saying it. It's going to blow up in your face.
Someone said that to me today as well. That someone said to me, how many games are left? And I said, Arsenal have like 20 games left. The person said, "Oh, that many?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "If it was 3 points or 4 points with 1 game to go, I would be celebrating." So they have so many. They just need to lose 3 games on the bounce, and I said, "Wow." Person said, "They lose 3 games on the bounce. It's a different game."
We haven't touched February. February is the time when they go haywire, you know. So yeah, just to not lose hope. We're not that far away from clicking. We see that we, you know, there's moments in our season so far that you say, "Oh wow, this is my team," and there's also moments in the season you say, "This is my team. This useless team here," you know. So. That's the love of being a Tottenham supporter, is that we can turn it on in 145 minutes and we can flush it down the toilet in the next. So, but I think that we'll get it right more times than not. That was the first big spanking that Antonio Conte received against City in his entire Tottenham managerial career. I think that was his first big proper spanking that he's received. That's not bad going. That's not bad going thus far, you know. So,
wasn't helped by Lloris as well, eh?
Oh, Lloris, we won't go into that one. We won't go into the Lloris. Lloris is a whole new episode. Lloris has got his own episode. I think he should have his own episode on Lloris, to be fair. But yeah, not give up hope. North London will always be Lily White and Company Spurs.
On that note, I'm not going to add anything to what you guys have said, because you guys have just said it all. You know, I can't even begin to. How am I going to put this? What can I say? Because you guys just sort of.
You can say free Jet Spence. Hashtag free Jet Spence.
I agree. Free Jet Spence.
Wow, the poor guy, man.
Our season will change. Our season will change once Jet Spence starts playing.
Give the guy a chance more. Give the guy a chance more.
Anyway, on that note, guys, thank you so much. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.